better. And normally I was very hesitant to take this lecture because I received a lot of invitation from various institutions for again these FDP programs, but I declined. But I thought because the KNIT Sultanpur, which gave me a lot, so it is my duty to give something to KNIT Sultanpur as well. So it's accepting the invitation.
Thank you, sir, a lot.
Yeah. So thank you for the inviting the people like Johan, Professor Verma, and all the those are the electrical engineering fraternity, including Ajay Sekhar, Ajay Sekhar Pandey, Sinhaji. So a lot of people are very close, even though sort of multi-party, etc. So the my talk will be very simple and very thought-provoking. That we should see what are the challenges in especially forecasting. Normally, I start why the forecasting? What is the need of the forecasting? That many questions will be answered in my presentation, and I hope that at the end of my talk, we'll have some good discussion on this issue. So, ENN means artificial neural network. This question again relates why artificial neural network? Why not the conventional methods to forecast? For example, even the earlier people were not having all these tools, but they were forecasting based on the, for example, right now it is a huge rainy in the eastern part of the UP. I don't know about the Sultanpur, but Kanpur it is not raining. But I know Gorakhpur, Devariya, that Bihar part is raining heavily. So people were even though forecasting if the direction of the wind and the speed of the wind and also looking at the cloud, they were saying it will rain or not rain. So it is a lot of people were having the experience. They are based on that experience they were telling. It was not having any mathematical foundation. And based on that, it was correct many a times, not all the times. It was many a times, it was correct. But based on this evolution of mathematical modeling, the computers and the very fast computer like supercomputers are used. Now you can say the forecasting is so accurate, so accurate. And it is, again, the forecasting is, suppose I'm forecasting today for the next year, and I'm forecasting for the next hour. Both are having the different impact. The accuracy level will be also different. So all the things are basically included. So the forecasting is very, very important in the power system. Wind and solar, they came later part in our complete EHV system, or you can say grid integrated system. No doubt the wind energy and solar energy was invented long back. And the wind energy was there for the various agriculture purpose and other purpose was there. But integrating at the large amount in the electrical grid is another challenge. That's what is going to happen in the operation and control of the power system. So from the very beginning, when the power system was formed, then we were doing the load forecasting because the load is in the control of end users. Generation is in the hand of the utilities, power utilities, or generating companies, or generating stations, or you can say state electricity boards, or power corporations, etc. Just you can say that side. So the load once you are changing, because you never ask to the utility like your power corporation, look, I'm going to start my switch, going to turn on and turn off. Nobody is asking. So means you are just free to just consume or not consume the power. But as you know, once you are consuming the power must be generated from somewhere. So then how this utility will know? No doubt one option that we know that load is increased based on the frequency. And if you suppose load is increased, the frequency will drop, and then we have to increase the power. So for the normal operation, we can do. But suppose there is a sudden increase of, let's suppose, 1000 megawatt in some area. If it's 1000 megawatt, so the generators, those are running continuously, they may not have the capability to meet that demand. So what we need some new generators to be turned on so that they can take the power. So if they are to be, so we require, as you know, the thermal power station, they require minimum 3 to 4 hours if it is a hot rolling. It may require 7 to 8 hours if it is a cold rolling. So that I can forecast that what will be the load and maybe after next 4 hours or 3 hours. So I can be prepared right now to meet that demand. So there is a two aspect. One is you are increasing the load, so that whatever the capacity remaining with the already running, or you can say generating power stations, they can meet within certain percentage of the load increase. But if it is a huge, you cannot, then we require some sort of forecasting. So the proper operation of the grid, the forecasting is very, very important. And that's why we were doing the load forecasting. Because only generation and loads were there. The wind and solars were not there in our power system. But apart from the wind and solar, now people are also forecasting due to the competition in the electricity market, the price is also fluctuating. We require ancillary services that must be procured. So those are also are being forecasted. So the power system which we started in the very beginning, 1882, when the first power system was developed at the Pearl Street, as you know, at that time, it was the load and generation we were trying to balance. And then forecasting was started from very beginning. So the load forecasting is a very common phenomena for the utilities from the very long time. They were using some sort of seasonality. There were some sort of the variations of, you can say, time. We know what is the demand at my substation, or what is this. So it is depending upon the consumers and the behavior, the load which is coming at the generating total load. If you see the load curve, or you can say generation curve, you'll find there is some variation. That's it. Maybe some peaks in the morning, some peaks in the evening, some downfall, and night is less. So that variation is known. Based on that, we were doing that how much increase, and based on that, we were committing our generating stations. So it was very easy, and it was done all the time. Even though in the planning also the forecasting was done. One is in the operation, another in the planning. In the operation, the forecasting is also important, and the planning also, because suppose I want to have I can see down the line of 5 years what will be the load growth. So we have to plan our generating station. So not only generating station and the load is sufficient, we have to plan for the transmission system as well. And that transmission system, because it has to evacuate power from the generating station and should give it to the end user through the transmission system and the distribution system. So those transmission lines maybe require new lines, maybe the augmentation, maybe uprooting, many things are done. And again, that will be done for the smooth, reliable, secure, another operation. In the power system, basically, as you know, for the operation, always I say that we are having the 5 fingers, and the 5 fingers denote similarly to the 5 things are very, very important in the power system design and operation. One is, we can say, the quality. We must give the good quality of the power to our end users. Now, the question of the quality is very, very vague. At our beginning, we were saying if my frequency is between the 3% and my even the voltage variation is 5 to 10%, depending on the voltage level, and the continuous supply is there, so we can say it is a good quality of the power supply. But now it has changed because, as you know, we are integrating large amount of power electronics devices. So the definition of the power quality, which was earlier, now it has changed here. And now we say that we have to give the sinusoids to our end users. Means there are the various XLs, there is a transient, the harmonics, interharmonics, notching, flickering, a lot of things are there, and along with, of course, the voltage and the frequency limits. So that is changing the quality. Second was the reliability. We design our power system in such a way that it should be reliable. How many times your transformer is burning, how many times your tower is falling, how many times a conductor is breaking. All the things once you're designing, that you should design a reliable power system. So those things, no doubt, there are storms, so certainly the conductor will be broken, even the poles will be down, many things happen, but in the normal situations, it never happens. So we design the power system with the reliability, with a certain reliability margin, and along with that. Another term came with the stability of the power system. As you know, that we are having a lot of synchronous machines are connected each other. And due to this synchronous, we have to operate in synchronous. So the stability in the AC system is one of the concern. And you know the P delta curve, how much you can load. So the transient stability, the voltage instability, frequency stability, long-term, short-term, a lot of subsynchronous resonance, all these phenomena started once we keep on increasing the voltage level. So the stability is also another phenomenon, and that people are trying to operate our system in the stable fashion. Otherwise, there will be cascade failure and grid disturbance will be there. The fourth point is the security of operation. It is physically, it is related to the operation. For example, you are operating very happily and meeting the demand to end users, and with the specified quality of supply, suddenly one line trips, one generator trips, maybe one transformer trips. Then in that case, whether you are meeting end users with the same quality or you are meeting the demand or not first, and if you are meeting the demand, which is the quality is same. So that we have to plan if although the tripping has not occurred, outage has not occurred, but we are expecting if it will happen, then what to do. So the why not I can plan at this stage, because electrically is a very fast. It is a fraction of a second the grid will fail. So that we can not control manually. So we operate in such a way that even the one or two lines are out, that still we can supply. So the security operation is basically dealt with. So we talk about N-1 contingencies are considered in that. And the last but not least, the fifth one, that is to operate power system in economical way. The economical way, it is, already those are studied the final year in the BTech and the MTech, etc. The economic dispatch we do. In that, what we do, we minimize the cost of the thermal power stations those are generating. So we have to give the cheaper electricity to the end users. So the economic dispatch is basically the minimum cost operation of if you are having this. But that is also changing the philosophy. Why? Because the cost is not more important. It is related to the price. At what price they are selling? Because these generators are having the many generator companies are competing each other. So in the market environment, the cost has changed to the price. And we can prove mathematically the cost minimization is almost the price minimization in the 24 hours. And that is basically another philosophy which is there. So the forecasting, if we can know the forecasting of all these things better, our power system operators can operate and can meet all these 4-5 requirements in the very better way. So that's why forecasting is very, very important. So coming to this, the basic definition. The forecasting is a problem of determining the future values. The forecasting, I'm not here talking about the wind, solar power, whatever you can central load. No, it is a general definition which is true for all this. I can forecast the weather. I can forecast the election result. I can forecast what is going to happen in any parties and political party here and there. The forecasting, even though we forecast your future also. Suppose you are going to the palmistry, he will see your hand, and based on that, he will do some forecasting. You say your future is very good, your past is this one. So based on that, he is basically also doing some sort of prediction. So he does the prediction in the past, and also he does your past without knowing your past. He just gives some data based on certain data, maybe the lines of your palm, and also he predicts the future based on your lines, and those lines are keep on changing. Similarly, the forecasting, the data of the future is going to keep on changing. The past data is the fixed, which that's already we know. So the forecasting is very interesting for any individual. Always say, what is my future? What is going to happen next day? Whether it will be raining or this one windy or very hot. So a lot of things are basically the forecasting. So the forecasting in general, having the past information, that is, this is the line you can see, the past measurements, past data we are having. Based on that, we can forecast the different hours or different times, different intervals of the different dots here, you can say. Now this you can have in your left-hand side of this black line is the available information with one at the various time instants. That's the information is there. Based on that, I can forecast at this black line, 0 line, I can say, I can determine all the 6 dots to one shot. Based on some mathematics, some sort of methods I can do. All these 6 dots I can determine. What will be the value based on these past data? And these data are enormous. It may be year data, it may be several years data, it may be the day data, all the things are there. Now it is called, this is a complete one-shot determination. So it is a multiple step ahead, means here the multiple steps we are getting. Another what we can do, right now I can forecast the first dot, the value here. And then once I have reached here, then looking this actual value and the past data, I can forecast the next dot. So it is a step by step we are calling. So it is one step ahead forecasting. We can say at this 0 hours black line, I can say I can forecast 2 steps together. So once you are forecasting very close to the 0 line, it will giving the very accurate result. But if you are forecasting here, it may be not very accurate. So that's why the different types, sometimes for the market, we require 24 hours forecasting, even though we require 72 hours forecasting. Because the 24 hours today, and for the today also based on that we do. So it is approximately 30 hours. Because suppose my market is going to close at 4 p.m. So we are having here approximately 8 hours or 6 p.m. So 6 hours and the 24 hours. So it is basically 30 hours ahead we can forecast. But many a times we can, we can keep on updating our forecasting, especially you are having the real-time market operation. And that is basically every hours we can update our own predictions or estimation. So this is the forecasted value we can do. So this is the definition of the normal definition, a basic definition of forecasting. Now, based on the forecasting, means how long you are forecasting, it can be classified. It is in the short terms. If you are talking about the hours to day, if you are talking hours to months, it is a medium. And if you are talking several years, so it is a long-term forecasting. So it is basically the seconds, minutes, hours, monthly, all the things that we can forecast. So that it depends upon the range of the specific quantity. It is the short term may be the different for the electrical load forecasting, however it will be different for your price forecasting. It may be the different for your weather forecasting. So it is basically, we can categorize in the 3 categories, because the one method if you are applying here, that will be not used for the long term and vice versa. So we require the tool for the different time frame for the forecasting and doing this. So that is the forecasting approach. Now coming to only I'll say sometimes my internet will be down. So please, if my voice is not coming, you have to interrupt. You have to basically either WhatsApp and other things you can do, because it has a refreshing time of I think 3 hours or 2 hours. I don't know when I refresh. Let me refresh first, then I'll be starting, because otherwise it will be hanged in between. So please allow me. Yeah, this firewall. Yes, the 240 seconds, no issue. So I'll be very good. So I hope I'm audible.
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Okay. And you can see the screen also.
Sure, sir, sure.
Good. Okay. So the factors which are first, now I'm coming with the load, because the load forecasting or load demand, whatever, it is a very, very old and we were doing. So let us try to understand that's what are the things which are basically affecting your load demand and here I'm talking the electrical load basically. So there are 3 major factors which are affecting, and you can see, or you can say influencing, affecting, whatever. Because one is the time factor. Why the time factor? We know my load demand at your house, it is especially the peak hours, especially at 8 p.m. because all the fans are on, your air cons are on, also your lights are on, so the complete loading is there. So this huge demand is there. But again, if you'll go for the 12 midnight, almost all the things are off except maybe your air con, and depending upon the season. It may be your summer season, it may be your winter season, it may be cold season, even the air con will be also stopped. So the time factor, that is hours of a day, it is a very, very important, which is keep on having some variation. And it is normally, I'll show one diagram, that it has a following certain pattern. So the hours are in the day, it will be every hour. We know that maybe at 10 a.m. it will be again some another peak, but in the daytime it will be going because people are reaching the office. Everyone is turning on their computers, their air cons, their fans. So that will be there. And again, after that, people will start moving here and there for meeting, sitting. So that's I'll be showing. Another is the day of the week, because the Monday to Friday will be the different pattern, but Saturday, if your office is closed, so a lot of load is reduced. Sunday, all the offices are closed. So that will be another pattern. And maybe the movement of the people, because people start washing, cleaning, vacuum. So that's it doing, so different type of load will be there. So the day of the week is another one. Another is a holiday. Maybe the Sunday is, maybe Monday is holiday. So the normal Monday and the holiday Monday will have the different type of the patterns. and that way the time factor is important. Another type of consumer, of course, the behavior of the consumer is also changing. Even in the domestic consumer, which is where we belong, it is also the different, because those are working, non-working, both are working, one is working. There's all the difference are there. Kids are small, kids are grown up. So that is the domestic loads are having another pattern. Commercial loads are another pattern. When office will be open, when it will be closed, then pattern will be the different. And the industrial, as you know, that will be also the different. So based on the type of customers, the profile is also changing. But in the total system, I have to add all these things, even though I have not added here agricultural loads. That is also taken into the account. That is basically coming to the load variation. Another is your weather parameters. If it is the temperature is very high, then people will be turning on the air cons. But nowadays, not only temperature, if the humidity is there, it's very humid, the air con will be, or cooler will not work, and so on and so forth. So the lot of weather parameters also affecting that, whether it's a windy, whether it's a sunshine, whether it's a cloudy, whether it's a humidity, whether it's a temperature. So all these things are having the impact, but the major effect is basically your temperature that is on the load demand it was found. I'll show the diagram. So these are so these are the influencing factor. So for which time we are talking, what is the temperature at that time, what is the basically for which load you are forecasting, for which day you are doing, and then you can do, that is basically the load forecasting. Now you can see the effect of the time factor. Just I want to show. You can see this is a 0 to 24 hours. You see in the x-axis, it is 1 day. You can see there is a variation. You can say another day, the variation is almost similar, you can say. No doubt the peaks are changing. It will be small changes. It will be the patterns also slightly changes due to the lot of, outliers, etc. But you can say all the 5 days are having the different pattern, but the weekend, you can say this is having the different patterns. And you can say second week also almost similar. So we are having some patterns. That is very, very important for the forecasting. So the load demand is basically the very first factor is the time factor, that is the varying according to this. Now it's a seasonality, but for 1 day also this variation is depending upon the temperature also. Only problem is that these no doubt the peaks which are occurring for the very short duration, but you'll find at the slower peak, but we have to turn on, we have to have my generator should be ready to even to provide that load also. That load also is important. No doubt in the many places where the generations are not there or maybe the shortage, so they go for the load shedding. So the load shedding is not a good idea. In the developed country, if they're not providing the load, meeting the demand, you have to pay to end users, consumers. That is called ENS, energy not served. You have to declare before that I'm unable due to the certain outages, there are certain technical problem, but you cannot go for the load shedding, otherwise you have to pay. And it was found that this payment is very, very high compared to the providing the electricity. So the utility anomaly. So you can say these peaks are very small durations, but it is basically met by the alternators, and then we have to turn on. So that's why these peaks are required to be determined. Because maybe my generator is here, what is it? So in planning also these peaks must be done. So that is a very, very important that we have to do. Now coming to another factor, that is the temperature. In the temperature, you can say this is a load demand and the temperature, which is we have taken the temperature sample. It is taken from one's data. So you can see it has a relation. It has a relation. Temperature increases, the load is increasing. So if you are drawing both in the sampling, just temperature and the load, you are drawing here on this one axis. For a given samples, etc., we can do, you will find we are having this pattern. Now you can see this is having certain band. It is not a straight line. It is not a straight line. If it is a straight line, then it is very easy. I can have the temperature, and then I can, having the equation of a straight line, I can get the my demand. So it is having, for you can say same temperature 20 degree, you can say load was even the 2 megawatt to here you can say the 3.5 or 3 megawatt. So there is a huge variation. So you cannot say that temperature is 35 degree, load will be more. But there is a variation. You can see the 30 degree here, the load is increasing. If the temperature is more, load is more. but it is the variation here. If it is a straight line, it is very easy, no need to go for the forecasting. So that's we need the forecasting. I don't know that the temperature is 15, my demand will be this or this. So that's why this range is there. So I have to do some tools so that I can find particularly that at the 15 or 20 degree, what will be my demand, so that I can plan my alternators, I can plan my generation so that it can make. So that basically gives the necessity of the forecasting. Another basically in the market price. Nowadays, now as you know, this electrical market is going to be competitive, and also in our country it is competitive. No doubt we are not experiencing that variation. As you know, in our country, every 15 minutes, the price changes. Because we are having the two stock exchange, even though other two are under consideration, it will be also just installed in the very near future. But the two stock exchanges are there that the trading, the selling and buying is every 15 minutes. So who is doing? For our own, like Power UP guys, it is basically our power corporation buys the power from that stock exchange, depending upon knowing its own generation capability. So there are certain own generation, there are some shares of central government shares, but still if you are having some power, you're having demand, you have to buy from the surplus states or maybe the private power producers, and then you can do. So that basically 15 minutes interval it is there. But what are the factors which are affecting the price of electricity? It is again the load. If more load, expensive generator will be asked to generate. If the expensive generator is asked to generate, then the price will go up. Because we are having the variety of, even the thermal itself you are taking, many thermals are very, very cheap. Many thermals are very, very expensive. For example, you can say the thermal station in our country, in our state, that we are having the Anpara Obra. Or even the central sectors, you know, the Rihand and Singrauli. They are the cheaper power producers. But the same we are having the Roja, that is near to Bareilly. It is 7 to 8 rupees per unit. If you're going for the Singrauli Rihand, it is 2 rupees. So that's basically, so we have to load in the such a way. So the load is more, you have to ask the expensive generator, then the total cost of the generation will increase. And that's why the price will increase. So there are other factors as well, like network congestions. For example, I have a capacity in the Anpara, but I cannot generate because one line is out and only I can flow, only one line is available to me. So I have to reduce my generation and I have to ask the Roja to generate. So then again, the cost will go up. Then reserve margin, as you know, for operation, you should have the transmission reserve margin, you should have generation reserve margins. Various margins are required for the successful operation of the power system. And that's the reserves are very, very important. Another is the fuel. Let's suppose your oil and gas prices are changing because many generators are using gas, many generators are using oil, many generators are using coal, that is also changing. You know, the new coal policy, NCP, that is there, and that based on that, now it is the coals are imported from your South Africa and Indonesia, which is used in our powerhouses. I can say in the Lanco, that is Anpara D, that is a powerhouse using the power from another, buying the power from other countries even. So that price is also affecting greatly the price of the electricity because the generation cost will go up, price will go up. And another, suppose you are having huge hydro generation availability. Suppose your reservoirs are empty, especially in the summer. And if you are having the rainy season, you are having enough, then at that time you can generate them because these hydros are cheaper power. Almost no cost, only maintenance cost and capital costs are there. And also if you are having more solar and the wind, that will be also affecting by the price. So it is a lot of parameters which are affecting, but the load is having that directly, which I'm going to show. Others are basically the changing here and there. It depends upon season to season. It depends upon the network operation and so on, maintenance, etc. That is there. Now you can see here, it is the price and the demand. The load demand is changing and you can say the price how it is changing. There's a lot of spikes. You can say there was one time, this is the peak is almost same, but the on top, but you can say the price here is less, but price is more. And if I can draw this one, and you can say this is a market clearing price, that is basically decided here. So the smaller window, it is drawn here because some window is taken, you can say how it is varying. Because this is the 6,000 samples. Here you can say only it is a 3,000 samples, half of that, so it is expanded. You can say it is also varying. It is also varying according to the time of the day, because your load is changing with the time of the day. Because the peaks are already, I showed you, that's how load is changing. Already I showed here. That's, you can say how this, you can say load profile is right. So the price is also here less, the price will be more here, and so on and so forth. So that basically it is there. And if you're drawing that load demand versus price, you can say here there is another curve we are getting. Again, it is not a straight line. It is having some range. For a given load demand of 5,000 megawatt, you can say the price start with the 40, it is going to be approximately 100. So it is a range. But I want exact value, very close to that. No doubt exact is very difficult. So then something error is allowable. So we require, and that's why it is we require the forecasting tool. Here also, if it is a straight line, no need to forecasting. This mathematical formulation that you can have, multiply by demand, you can get the price. And that's basically needed. So then due to this, at one point of the demand, you are having various prices, then we require the forecasting. What is the today? What is tomorrow? And that must be forecasted. So they did the price versus load. Now coming to the wind. What are the factors which is affecting the output which is coming out from the wind turbine? As you know, the various type of wind turbines are there. It may be the doubly fed induction generator, or maybe the permanent magnet synchronous generators. These two type of wind power normally used for the electrical grid integrations. No doubt both are using the power electronics. One is using the full converter, especially the PMSG, and the DFIG is using one of the third of the, from the rotor side, and we are connecting to the stator side by the power electronics and control. So these are the variable drives because they are giving more. Earlier we were having the fixed drive, and the pitch was controlled in a such way so that we can get the constant frequency. But nowadays, since the variable, we are having the controller of power electronics we are doing. So the output of the wind power, basically it is depending upon the first is the wind speed. If the wind is more, turbine will rotate more mechanical power will be given by the gears, and finally coming to the alternator, the output will be there. But apart from that, what is the direction? If the direction is different than your blade, what will happen? So that is also affecting your turbine layout. For example, you are having a front turbine where the wind is coming, one turbine is just behind. So if you find this wind will be going in the different way, and that is called the wake effect. So the speed faced by the first turbine will be the different, then the speed behind that will be the different. So now the layout is also very important to know the output. So this layout is one. Also, this layout, where it is located in terrain, it is a mountain, it is a valley, it is a plain. That is also basically that is the terrain is also very, very important to know the outputs. So these are the factors influencing the wind power generation. But again, the wind speed is one of the prime factor. Then what we go further. Sometimes people consider the wind direction also in their forecasting. And also the people are, if you are having the wind far, many, then we are going for the wind turbine layout also consideration, including the wake effect. Normally it is known as wake effect. So that is and of course the terrain, etc. So that's basically the sequence here. So also you can see here, this is a time wind power output and the wind speed. If the wind speed is keep on changing, you can see this is also changing, the wind output. Here it's a very hazy signal. It is not very clear because this time sample is very long. You can say 5 to 10 per hours. And now I'll show here. You can see the wind power output and the wind speed, the relation. One thing is very important. This band, you can say it is a very narrow compared to the load, compared to the price which I showed. This output by the input, which I was considering. But still, you can say that 8 meters per second, we are having here maybe the 50 or 55, and also we are having the 90 megawatt. So which one I need? It is still not a linear, but still zone is very, it is approximately we can say the linear. So here also we need the forecasting because it is not, because here the only wind speed is considered. If you consider the wind direction, that also, even though this line will be the narrowed one. So the many factors are there, and that gives the idea that we should have the forecasting of the wind power as well, because the wind power, how much power is there inside? I'll tell you honestly, that's Tamil Nadu is having the highest wind power, and I can tell you it was having the highest load setting in the Tamil Nadu. You to know that's the wind which is flowing maybe within an hour, or maybe half an hour wind is zero. So the huge power, huge generation is zero, and your thermal units are not capable to take up all this load together. Then there is no other option than going for the load setting. So this is the free power, and this we don't know what is going to happen after half an hour, what I should do. So if I can forecast properly, I will ready my thermal generators. If it is going down, I'll increase my power and there will be no load setting. And that's why the wind power forecasting is also very, very important in our grid, because it's having huge impact and huge value of the penetration in our network. Similarly, solar also, I'll come to solar at the end. So the various forecasting approaches are, one is normally we say the non-linear models, and another is the linear models. In the linear models, the regression models are very, very popular, and it is used for very statistical analysis even though for the stock exchange. They were used for many, many things. They were used for very beginning. So the forecast value is linearly dependent on the past historical values of the time series. And these methods are the, you can say, autoregressive model, autoregressive moving average model, autoregressive integrated moving average. So these are models. Another is the Garch method. Many other methods are basically proposed. Here what we do, you can see this is the functions here is called the backshift factor. Using the past, we can have a linear equation. This xt I can determine from the phi b, and that will be inverse, and this error will be minimum. So we can form a phi in such a way that this error should be minimum. And that basically the very, very important in that. So using the past information, that is, you can say phi 1, phi 2 with the different hour intervals, and b I can determine based on that, we can get this function. So this is auto-regressive models of order p, because we are using the p data in the past. How many inputs you are getting to forecast, and that's the p is very, very important. So the p we are using. Another here is the moving average model of order q. Here we are using the q data from the past q that we are doing. Another is the moving average model here, auto-regressive ARMA model here, the moving average MA model. So it is basically addition of these two we are doing. We are doing, you can say, this model, plus we are using the theta model added together. And based on that, errors are minimized. I'm not going much details because this is a big book for this, knowing all these things. Just you can try to know that these are the various non-linear models. Another, say, auto-regressive integrated moving models, it is another model which is basically taking, so ARMA model is derived from the ARMA model. It is applied when the time series has some non-stationary behavior, do not vary with the fixed mean. Because if you are having a signal having some variations very, very easily, like for, you can say the Monday, Tuesday, you can say the load profile is almost same. But many a times, many signals, it may not be there. So then those are called the non-stationary. This behavior is very radically. Then these models are used here. So I'm not going to explain, these are the very mathematics, and I hope it will be confusing to many of you. Let us come to the actual point here. Another very important point here, the correlation analysis we do. It's very important to understand. For example, I am just forecasting the load at 5 p.m. today. At this, right now I'm forecasting. Now, at this 4 p.m., after 1 hour I am forecasting, and I have a thousands of data, a lot of, you can say 5 years data of the loads I am having for all the 24 hours. For the 365 days, we are having the data. Now the question is, what data I should take to forecast the 4 hour? So we require certain information that which one variable of my past data has a direct link with the 5 p.m. First will be at moment data, because I know what is the load demand at this time. Another, maybe the yesterday 5 p.m. data will be another important, because what was the load yesterday 5 p.m. Maybe one day before the 5 p.m., maybe 1 year before 5 p.m. So those are the directly we can see that this will be having the some behavior. But that is not only, maybe at this moment, maybe 1 hour before, and all this how the loads are changing. So those are the finding out of the thousands data. I have to pick few data so that have a direct impact. Otherwise, what will happen? Your training, your getting information will be very erroneous, and you will not get. And also, it is stuck in the calculation phase. So for that knowing, we basically go for the autocorrelation function, and also we can say partial autocorrelation functions are defined. Based on that, we try to determine that what will be from the past data. I can determine which are the data are very, very important to forecast the 5 p.m. data of load data of today. And that is basically autocorrelation function. To define autocorrelation, what we do, first we create the mean. So whatever your data having the mean, you can calculate. You can calculate the variance, that is the sigma square. As you know, this is the sigma square. This is the mean minus xt value. T is equal to 1 to all n data. And that is square value we normally get. And the autocorrelation at the kth lag, what happens? We take the mean here at the tnth instant minus mu that we are doing. And then xt plus minus u, we are doing this variable. And divided by this variance that is giving. So this value is giving, its value is very high, means it's having a direct impact. If it is not having, so it will be having the low. So the dominance, etc., is defined by this variance. Another is your partial correlation, and that is also used here in that we are going one step ahead. Because one is the t plus kth instant for 5 p.m., but maybe even the 4 p.m. I can get what was the very important. So it is not directly correlated with the 5 p.m. The 4 p.m. what was the value which was related. So those data also I can take from the previous data, and that is the using. So the autocorrelation and the partial autocorrelation are the way where we can select the good data of the past so that we can forecast accurate for the given interval of the time. So that is normally done very well. So the limitation of the linear regression models, they are the linear models. They cannot capture the non-linear relation between the dependent and the independent variables. The forecast, yeah. Hello? Any problem?
No, sir. I think there is no issue with that.
नहीं ठीक है, सही चल रहा है. Okay, ठीक है, ठीक है.
Then I thought there was some signal came. So anyway.
नहीं, सही है, एकदम सही है.
Okay. So it is as they are the linear model, they cannot capture the non-linear relation between the independent and the dependent variable. So it's since I'm talking the 5 p.m., I'm taking the 5 p.m. and those are linear things we are doing. So they are not very giving the captures the non-linearity behavior with the dependent and undependent variable. So that is another error, and forecasting error increases rapidly with increase in the look ahead time. For example, since I'm doing here 4 p.m., the 5 p.m. forecast will be very good. But if I'm going for the midnight or maybe the morning of that, the error will be keep on increasing. So look over ahead if you're doing at one shot at this time for 24 hours. So once your time is changing, the error will be more. The model parameters have to update it frequently because the parameter of P and Q and the correlation will be keep on doing. So that requires a lot of time consuming as well. So another method is the nonlinear regression models. And those are basically, one is a very important, normally use the artificial neural network. As we all know, that's all are well established in the function approximation. They are used neural networks. Many variants of neural networks are employed in the field of forecasting problem. And we are having the feed-forward neural network, recurrent neural network, radial basis neural network, wavelet neural network, and many more various variant of neural networks are used. So here what we do, we are having the past data. It is nothing but a mapping of the past information to know the future. So what happened, we are having the past data, we know this, we know the output, what was the load and what were my input parameters, maybe temperature, your wind, whatever you can say. Based on that, suppose I'm forecasting the load. The load is given for each hour for past 24 hours is available. We are having all other input parameters also, like weather conditions or other seasonality, day, etc. we are having. So based on that, what we can do, we can map with the input and output. That is the mapping, we can say. So it is a network parameters are used, and it is always trained. So this is the desired value, and this is estimated. So till it is 0, we keep on updating the parameter. Once this complete mapping is done, it is trained, then I can give the unknown inputs and I can get the load. And that is basically the basic concept of the neural network based forecasting. So this backpropagation algorithm, evolutionary based optimization for the training, or means updating the parameters, we are using the various other evolutionary techniques like the genetic algorithm, particle swarm optimization, foraging, the ant colony. It is the crazy PSO, lions and leapfrogging. Many varieties of them. They are used for basically the training, and the input variables are basically selected based on your autocorrelation functions or the partial correlation functions. Other methods are your fuzzy logic people are using. ANFIS normally people use adaptive neurofuzzy inference system. They are using data mining techniques like a clustering, support vector machines are used for the classification and regression models, and Wavelet is the pre-filtering based ANN and fuzzy models are there. So the various models are used in the forecasting for the various applications. They are there. Now a recent development that is called, already I explained what is the WNN. It is basically we are having the wavelet neural network. But the AIST is added here. It shows that adaptive wavelet neural. What is that? It is the same neural network which is a common people are using. As you know, what we do here at the hidden layer, we are having the different type of activation function. In the feed-forward neural network, we use the tan-h or sigma-t function. In the radial basis neural function, we use the Gaussian function. And in wavelet-based neural network, we use the wavelengths. And you know the wavelet transform, there is a wavelength, it is having some property, and the electronics people will be signal. Normally, we use the wavelet transforms. So it is a wavelengths or wavelets are used here. And in the wavelets, it is a normal wavelets we are using, not changing the parameters A and B, that is a translation and dilation parameter, then it is a WNN. But we can change A and B also because it has a, I think I have the figure. No, I don't have that figure of the wavelets. So you can change, and based on that, we can do. And you can see we are having the one is a direct relation with the input because it is having the linear relation, and the non-linear with this function is a non-linearized, and then it is added multiplied by omega 2, and this is added here. So you can say same x1 input, it has a direct v1 multiplied input is some here, and then another is coming with all these wavelengths non-linearized and multiplied by the various weights, and we are summing here getting the output. So you can see it is the x is directly having some weight, so it's the vi's and wj's are to be determined to get your this. Bias is g, it's also we know that we can find it. So these values, the weights and the vi's must be obtained, and the bias, and to know this, because from past data we can get these parameters, and we can have these parameters. Now we can very easily, what I can do, I can basically get this value here because j is also dependent on the x. So this x, give the x value here, you can get the y very quickly, and it's a fraction because simple multiplication, simple activation here, and then we can get. So that's why this wavelet neural network based forecasting is an online application. It is very fast that we can do. And nowadays the weather forecasting, the neural networks are basically very used. So you can say that we are training, what we do, we minimize the error from the past data. Future we don't know, the past data we are having. Based on that, we can minimize this error vector. And from that, we can have all my weights changes we can train continuously by iterative process. So it is a gradient search methods normally used, and that we can get. And another 2 parameters here for making adaptive, this translation and dilation parameters are also updated. And based on that, we can get the new weights, and then we can, once weights are saturated, this converge solution, then we are happy with getting A and B parameters for the given set of the past data. And for that model, we can give the new inputs, we can get the output quickly, and that is basically there. So here, the role of forecasting in the power system, now I can summarize that before the deregulation, before the electricity competition, that we were only doing for the load demand forecasting were carried out. And that was very, very important for the economic operation, that is economic dispatch, and also the unit commitment. We must be very clear what is unit commitment, what is economic. Economic is economic dispatch problem. Unit commitment, we have to see which unit will be turned on, which unit will be turned off at which hours. So that is also some sort of cost one, and that load is to be estimated, because based on that you can do the unit commitment. Another, you can also do the maintenance and the planning of the power system, because sometimes I have to plan my transmission line, sometimes I have to plan my maintenance, yearly maintenance of the generating stations, because they must be planned properly, otherwise that will create another one. So these things are always very, very important to be basically known, and it will be forecasting is done. Now, another, after the deregulation, now as why we are doing the deregulation, I'm not going in that one, but it is basically, it is creating the competition in the supplier. We are giving the choice to us. So now I can buy the power from the UP Power Corporation. I can buy power from Adani as well, from the Gujarat. And now it is there. Now it is many states have permitted. And that is the power is purchased from here and there with the open access. And that's basically, we can have the cheap power. Wherever the cheap is there, we can do. Now, in the electricity, you can see how this forecasting is going to be very messy. That's what I want to show from this one. Because the load was one, but due to this, we are having the many things together. You can say the generation side. This is my generation. This is my operators. This is what is the interval which we are doing the forecasting. You can say forecasting, we are doing for the load. We are doing for the price. We are doing for the wind power and solar powers that we are forecasting. And based on that, these GenCos and suppliers are basically making their decision to sell the power at which price. So that is basically there. So that basically the price forecasting here is very, very important. The independent system operator basically forecast the price. Its signal is given to them. Based on that, they are basically bidding. That's whether if the price is low, whether they should go for the bidding or not. And the load forecasting is this side. So they also forecast by themselves, generating company. They don't rely on them. They also say what is going to be there. So this load and price is basically forecasted. Now here in that, the different type of markets we are having, energy, ancillary, and transmission, and it may be the day ahead. Means for the tomorrow's electricity, I can know everything today. We can just 1 hour ahead, I should know the information, and also at the real time. So these 3 time sequence, which is normally used in the operation, and for these we are having the different forecasting for all these loads, price, wind, another solar, everything we require the forecast. So that becomes a very, very complex phenomenon, and that is very, very needed. And it is done at each utility level, as well as generating level and the ISO level. That is, so it is basically operation related. The planning always we can do, and we are doing. That is a planning aspect as well.
Sir, here is one problem. One confusion, that independent system operator, ISOs and transmission business is separate, here shown in this slide.
Yeah. Okay. So it is good that you have given rest to me. I was keep on explaining. So you are giving rest, and I'll explain this. Yes. You see that the different models are existing across the globe. Independent system operator, not necessarily it is a transmission system operator. It is not necessary with the market operator. It is basically the 2 models are approached. One is the transmission system operators. Earlier, even for our Indian case, the power grid said that's why not we can have our TSO model, because the whole power grid is having the grid of network. So they are the owner also. They said I can operate the market also, and I can operate my transmission system also. So in that case, the ISO is the power grid, but it was not accepted. We said, no, we should have a different independent, because then you can play around, because the power grid has gone in the distribution sector also. So ISO should not have any business in any of like a generation, transmission, and your distribution side. And that's why it is called independent system operator. So sometimes it's a different country, the names are different. Okay. So we say sometimes transmission owners can be ISO, but not necessarily. Like in US, it is the transmission owners are different. They operate the transmission simply, nothing else. They get the money. But the ISO is there who is controlling, okay, this transmission line you can take in, take out, and all the things they are doing. So it is a country to country. So the TSO is
Okay.
not a DSO, ISO. It is.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. So any other questions up to this point?
I hope not, sir. There is no query from audience side.
Okay, okay, okay. No issue. But just one phone is coming. So just where it is. No. I want to see. I said this will be. Tell you he will talk me later. Okay. So let us move. So it is almost 1 hour. At what time I have to finish? 4:30. Yeah,
Sir,
before
at 4.
at 4. Okay. So you are giving 1 hour to me. No, half an hour. Okay. So now here you can see what is the day ahead. Our ahead is very clear. Suppose I should know the information of the 5 p.m. at the 4 p.m. So it is 1 hour every time. Just I'm doing 6 p.m. Then I should get the information at the 5 p.m. and so on and so forth. So it is a day. Real time, just I want the information, let's say 5 hour, what is our load, what is the price, everything. And also at the 6 p.m. and so on and so forth. So our ahead and the real time is very, very clear. But in the day ahead, just you can see, this is basically a picture. You can, you can see this is I'm talking for the today, is a day 1. But I should know the complete information of day 2. And you can see, so why I need today? Because I have to tell to my alternators for this, what will be the demand at each hour and maybe half an hour, so that they can be prepared, because you require coal, you require gas, you require oil. So everything the generators require before in this day, maybe 4 p.m., 6 p.m., whatever, depending on country to country again. So that is called the day ahead bidding here. But normally they bid based on the demand, they will bid and this market will be clear. So the market clear, once they are saying, okay, I'll sell 5 megawatt at this price, 10 megawatt at this price. So all the generators once bid. So then based on that, my demand here for complete day, I have to clear. So I require the data at this point. That's it is so that they can bid properly. So you can see an hour ahead about just here, just 12 hours here, hour ahead. So it is keep on moving. So you can see the data what I need, complete day for the 24 hours. And maybe here 6 hours. Let's suppose 6 p.m. I'm let's say they are starting. So you can say the 30 hours the data should be forecasted. So it is forecasted at this hour of the 30 so that they can bid. So the 30 hour ahead normally forecasting of the data of load, etc. That is to be done. So you can say it is not 24 hours, it is a 30 hours in the market scenario. So now in all the system, we are forecasting well before here so that I can publicize. So 30 hours ahead, the forecasting is done. And from here to here, we are doing 30 hours ahead for the 24 hours, for this complete from 0 hours to 24 hours. And it is repeated every day, and based on that, whole the market cycle is running. So we require all these things: load forecast, I said, the price forecast, operating reserve margins, wind forecast, and solar forecast. All these things are added. So already I mentioned that from the system operator point of view, that's in that it may be the planning problem due to the uncertainty. Unlike the conventional generation, wind power generation cannot be included into the economic load dispatch and unit commit problem. But in the operational problems, there are the frequency control, voltage control, power quality, ancillary services. All these things are basically required for the forecasting. From the wind power producer's point of view, the bidding in the day ahead, suppose they are allowed to bid. Normally, it is right now they are not bidding. They are whenever they are there, they are as and where they are available, they are inducted in the system, and basically that is the day ahead. Here the forecast. If they are allowed, they can bid. So that is meant and settling of electricity market. Now we are having the wind power trading also. That is even though wind certificates and wind energies are also basically purchased by the distribution utilities, because there is a mandate of the regulatory commissions in the many states. So that's all together. Even the solar certificates are there. Installed capacity, how much solar is there? They are saying, look, I want to buy you whether you are giving power or not, but that capacity must be added in that. So we want the green power. We want the smart grid operation. So the wind and solar are going to be in very massive way. Winds are almost saturated, as we all know, but the solar, which is very, very important, and there is a massive opportunity in our country, because the wind we are having very limited states. There, the coastal area and other things we are having, but the solar across the India, we are having enough solar. Out of 365 days, the 300 days we are having the clear sky days, and then we are having a very good amount of solar potential. Only they require a lot of land. They require, even though sometimes rooftop we can use, but it's a very small. We are using, and most of the commercial and the industrial, they are doing solar, even though domestic people are also using the rooftop solars, but also where the barren lands are there. Even though people are putting at the canals, the canal, you can, on top of that, you cannot have the agriculture. So that's, even though in Gujarat, the canal, they are having complete canal, they are having the solar power on top of that. But we are having another challenge, because there is a humidity is there, and that is creating the problems with that surface, cleaning, and many, many other issues. So the people are doing a lot of opportunity, but solar we have enough, of course. So for the load forecasting, already I was talking about the ACF and the PCF. There is a partial autocorrelation and the ACF. So that you can say, based on these dots, they are very, very important for the forecasting of that interval. So you can see it is having some variation. So you can say if you are forecasting at this hour, so the value of that hours for the last years, and also you can say next hours of the previous. So these are the values which are experiencing. Similarly, you can say the autocorrelations, partial autocorrelation, only few dots on the top. And you can say after again the 24 hours and so on. So that is basically analysis are done to select the minimum input, so that we can have the fast forecasting and accurate forecasting. So those are used here, and based on that, you can say how much is the temperature. You can say it was basically load demanded the correlation from here we have obtained, and then it is from load. You can say how these are changing. This cross correlations values here. So from we found for the load forecasting, you can say what are the terms. For example, you are you are going to forecast at the tth hour at the time t. Now you can say my data should be the temperature at the t. We are going to forecast my t minus 1 hour ahead, t minus 2, and the next day t minus 20 are found to be the very accurate, the temperature data. Then the load data, you can say t minus 1, because at this instant we are not having temperature, we are having load, we are forecasting temperature we can measure. So then it is t minus 1, t minus 2, t minus 3, and then the next previous day 23, 24, and 25 hours data, and then 48, 72, and so on and so forth. So it is based on those autocorrelation and the partial correlation, we determine these are the very important factor which is giving my data for that, and that's the number of iterations they were found. So that's the inputs that we can select and output we can get. So MIDE is adaptive neural network. We are having the load data, we are having the various temperature, which I already said, and these load data we are giving as the input. And based on that, we are giving my output. So this is the for iteration 1, you can say these we are giving, these are the data, and then we are keep on calculating every steps of the data. Means I've calculated here, why I moved 1 hour ahead, I can get it back again. So it is a one step ahead forecasting. It's not 1 shot 30 hours. That can be also done. So this is, we are keep on moving, we are keep on calculating. And you can say after the forecasting, here we have get, and you can say it's very difficult for you to see there is a blue and the red lines, and they are overlapping each other. And you'll find this AWLN method which we have used. We published this paper in the transaction, and it's how it is matching. There is certain errors at a certain peak, but it's very small, and that we will find the map value is very less, 0.6905. This in percentage, it is a maximum absolute point error that we have calculated based on this value. Another is a 24 hours ahead. Means we calculating at 1.24 hours, and you can see is a 24 hours error. You can say it is keep on changing. You will find it is not only the error 24 hours is more. You can say somewhere in the between also, because it's a mapping, and you can see here the black and reds are a lot of changes are there. So it is keep on calculating for the 24 hours ahead forecasting. It is done. Here in this model, which I said here, it is a one-time step, and you can say how much it is a closely matching. So it is the hour ahead forecast is very close and very accurate compared to the 24 hours ahead forecast. As already I said, if you are going for 1 year forecast, error will be more. So that's basically the beauty of this method. Another coming as a topic of the wind power forecasting here, and I have still 20 minutes to go. So you can say the wind, here the wind farms are there, and we know the power output is a cube of the wind velocity. So if you see that there is a equation here, the wind output power. So you can see this is the wind speed is there. If you are using this is a normally given by manufacturer's data, you can find here it is giving the less data. So, but it is not always we can have some forecasting and where the chopping off, it may not necessary that one. So that we require this because random statistic non-stressing variable, because non-stressing you can see the average is not zero at any point. So this is basically it is require the forecast here. So what we do, there is one that we can forecast the wind speed by having the numeric weather forecast, the physical model, the wind speed at the hub height we can get, and then we can give to manufacturer curve, we can give the wind power, we can get the wind power output. So the forecasting of the weather condition, like wind speed, given to the mechanical characteristic which is given by manufacturer, I can get the output. So here we are doing the forecasting, wind speed forecasting. Another way that we can, having my weather forecast is one data we can have the wind speed of the, at that moment, the forecasted, and the wind power also the previous data is there, we can directly get the wind power output. And that is the statistical model where we can use this all the things. And that is the more accurate that we can get. Already I talked about the various forecasting horizons. I'm not going to talk. Here, what we found that we can directly have the wind speed, and I'm doing the wind here, the past data, I'm forecasting the wind speed. So the forecasted wind speed and the past wind power and wind data I'm giving to this model, I'm getting the wind power forecast. So this is a two-stage forecast. Means I'm forecasting the wind speed, and using those I'm getting here. You can say here I've used the adaptive Veblen neural network, here the feed forward. Now you can say, why not both adaptive? Why not both feed forward? So on and so forth. And we found that using here the AWN is giving huge error because here the linearity relation is more, here non-linearity and very heuristic data is there. So based on that, in the trial, we found that the AWNN and this combination is giving the best result, and we use for this. So the time series, you can say what we did here, this it's a time sampling per hour, and this data, just I can expand, you can say this is the variation, wind speed. It is up to 4,000 hours. And that data, we did the autocorrelation analysis, you can say, based on to select the input, and we do the hour ahead forecasting with the various methods. The actual is black, the feed forward neural network is giving this, and AWN is giving. Not that model two stages, it's a one by one we tried, and we find the red is basically going to be, still it is giving a lot of error, normal one. Directly we are having the wind forecasting we are doing. So what we did, you find it is not very accurate even. So with that signal here, that signal which was I was having, this signal is just like any signal which is we're doing the signal processing techniques. So this signal we basically break in the various using the multi-resolution analysis. So different bands are created, and for each bands we are having one forecaster. And then forecasting trained before for each here frequency, and then we are adding to get the output. So you can say the signal is broken in the different one, and they are forecasted by neural network, and these forecasted value are added to get the actual. And now you can see again we did the autocorrelation, and we had this for each frequency range of that signal broken. We are having these models, the input lags we find, AWN and FNN we use, and then we to comparison, we are having the persistent model and the new reference model normally they are used. To know that my model is better, these are compared. These are very standard models where normally people are using to compare. These are the various error measures, normally bias, MAE, the maximum absolute error, RMS root mean square errors, normally they are used. And now you can see here, having the forecast by actual is black, red by AWNN, and here is this one. So you can say 30 hours ahead I am forecasting. So error will be certainly more. So you can see the red is close to black. However, this FNN is not giving that accurate one. And that basically is our adaptive Veblen neural network is there. To compare with the performance, you can see this is the time it once is increasing, the error will be increasing. And you can see that's any either take the value of the, like here green, that's a persistent model of RMSE of the persistent model here. You can see our models are here, the blue and black, they are the better than the red and green. And that basically giving this is a better value here. Similarly, the improvement, it is the percentage in the beginning improvement will be because error was less, so more improvement. However, earlier it was worst percentage, and that's it is always there for 30 hours ahead. But still, it is much lesser than our standard models over this, you can say, persistent model and the new reference model that we are getting. Another what we did, here the wind speed, as I said in the beginning, we are using with the FNN. And here I'm just getting the wind power. I have the past data. I'm here, my forecasting line is this. So I have the wind speed. From the wind speed, what I did, I just forecasted the wind speed from this data. I forecasted for the future, and that is given here with the past data, with the forecasted here, and the actual wind power, and I'm getting the wind power forecast. That is giving another better option that you can see what we are having. So the wind speed, we are having the past data beforehand, and then we forecasted based on that. That is given to the input here. So that input and these two inputs are given, and the wind power of the past, we are giving the wind power output forecast. And you can see here the forecast is very close. No doubt at the peaks it will be capturing will be different for the 30 hours, but step hour it will be matching very correctly. And that is basically, it will be giving the accurate results. Comparison with the various models, you can say with the, you can say this how much improvement is the blue dots are with the new one, and it is a huge improvement is there. You can say the red one is improving. So that basically giving the persistent models are giving the better. My model is giving better than even the standard model, and it was basically published in the Sustainable Energy of the Transaction based on these approaches. Another is the solar. No doubt, solar, as you know, it is normally directly related with the irradiance, solar irradiance, and also the direction of the movement of the sun, how it is directly falling on that. So using that the solar irradiance, we basically get the output. This is the one system which we analyzed and done by one PhD student. After forecasting this, whole this network was basically seen, having the different controller aspect, different transformer aspect, many aspects were analyzed, but the forecasting was one part of the one chapter, and that output just we were doing. So the solar irradiance for the year 2008, 9, and 10 at the San Francisco station was collected, and it was basically obtained from the NARL website. It was available, and that's why it was used, because getting the data is another issue here. So the time series data have been conducted, reduced by taking only the 14 useful hours, because you know the 7 AM to 7 PM only data is required, because at night it will be 0. So that's only the data of the 24 hours, the 14 hours it was given. So the input vectors of the 18 neurons were used for the forecasting of 375 kilowatt array was done. So it is 11 previous solar power lax hours with the high correlation coefficients were obtained. It was found 1, 2, 13, 14. These hours of the previous hours of where you are forecasting that were used to be forecasted. 1 year, you can say one previous year power output of the same day and same hour. One ordinal number of the year of day had to be forecasted. Basically, these inputs are obtained by the autocorrelation analysis and the partial correlation analysis, and that analysis is giving, so that it is not that you can take all the data. I can take only one day ahead data and then I can forecast. Error will be more. So to have a minimum errors, you have to do all this thing, and you can say they are having how much influence of this data is there. So you can say 1 hour time to be the forecasted that, or what is the basically the time where you are forecasting. So the many things, the solar radiance, temperature, all the things are basically, and the solar power output of the previous hours. So those are used, and those are basically done. So we used basically adaptive neural Veblen neural network, that is 18 inputs here, You can say 3 neurons, 1 hidden layer, and 1 output has been decided after many trials and found give the best result. The parameter obtained by the training AWNN is used for the forecasting of the 2010 because we did the data 2008 and 9, and for unknown years we calculated. By using 1 hour ahead forecasted power in the recursive manner. So every 1 hour we are forecasting, not as stress 30 hours. So then it will be giving the better result. So the successive hour ahead, 2 to 14 hours ahead forecasted is done. The AWNN is compared with the feed-forward neural network and AR models. And you can see the forecasting for the March, because every season it will be different. And you can see the AWNN is red and it is basically black. It's very close to each other. However, this feed-forward neural network, the dotted line is deviating many places. And that is, you can say. That can be also seen that you can say the forecasting here, actual power, this line is almost linear and all the calculus forecasted value are very close to the line. Here you can say how it is a diverse. So that is another way to show, another way to basically note out the RSME or MAP, MAP, MAE, these data are there. But this is also one way to show that how much is your state line. It is giving the forecasted and actual power. If the all should lie under the straight line. But if it is very close, I can say my forecast is better and it is giving good result. That is basically that. So it is you can say this was for March because the season is changing. It is for June. You can say again the red and this is the black are matching together. However, this is FNN is not matching, and you can say here again based on that information also you can see that's this FNN is not giving better result. It is AWNN. It is a single stage basically forecasting is done. It is not that the 2 stages like wind we did. So that is another work done by another student. And you can say this is for December, is a very highly winter. You can say the solar is almost, it's no solar in the many places. So you can say the output is also reduced, but you can say error here. It is more error is coming. So it is depending upon, because many erratic, sometimes it will be clear, sometimes cloudy, sometimes it is the day is also very short. So it is depending on if it is a long day and very clear, the forecasting will be very clear. But it is very erratic like the rainy season. You don't know, today maybe 3 days it will be raining, even the 1 hour is raining, after that it's clear. So the error will be more. And that's the, as you know, the forecasting, the natural, I'm not at the end I'll be saying, the forecasting of the nature is very difficult compared to even the forecasting of the behavior of human being also very. We can forecast the machine, operation, its behavior, but the forecasting of all these things of nature is very difficult. But we are having the tools, we are having and all the things, and we are trying, and it is basically, certainly people are always, the various methods are suggested, still a lot of R&Ds are done, people are trying as much as closer to the forecast, and that will be done. You can see this earlier in the radio just 20 years before. It was said that it will rain today, it was not raining at all. But nowadays, if the radio will tell that it is going to rain, at least 1 or 2 drop water will come. So that is basically forecasting. The techniques are improved, computational power has increased, and a lot of another methods are used to have the better and better forecasting. So that's basically the forecasting in the future of even the power system operation as well, and it is basically done. And that's why the forecasting is very important in the power system. And if you can do good forecaster, that is a tremendous, you can even make a lot of money also in the market also. So that's why the whole system is changing. We have to also change. So with this, I'll stop here and I'll allow for a couple of minutes for the question and answer. If you have, otherwise, simply I'll say thank you very much.
Now the platform is open for the queries from the audience.
Good afternoon.
हाँ प्यासी जी नमस्कार.
क्या हाल है?
बढ़िया है सर. दया है सर आप लोगों की.
बहुत बढ़िया लेक्चर रहा.
आपके दो लोगों का.
वेरी नाइस लेक्चर. अच्छा एक क्वेरी है जो विंड ऑफ डायरेक्शन है, ये इफेक्ट करता है या चेंज ऑफ डायरेक्शन इफेक्ट करता है विंड पावर को?
नहीं, बोथ करता है. जब विंड डायरेक्शन सेम है और विंड टर्बाइन है तो फिक्स डाटा है. इफ एनीथिंग इज वायरिंग which will be certainly सर वो ज्यादा अफेक्ट करेगा जब वेरिएशन है. तो द कांस्टेंट है तो हमें पता है इस एंगल पे कितना रहेगा, उसके अनुसार से हम ट्रेन कर देंगे. लेकिन इन व्हाट वे इट इज चेंजिंग, सो द विंड नॉर्मली जब हम फोरकास्ट करते हैं तो ये नहीं करते हैं कि एवरी मिनट इट इज द डायरेक्शन इज चेंजिंग. चेंज कर सकता है नेचुरली। जब करली विंड, अब विंड है, एक स्टेट हो रहा है, एक बार बड़ा वो टर्माइल टाइप के आता है ना, जिसको कहते हैं चक्रवाती, वो गोल गोल घूम रहा है, तो उससे वो दैट विल बी अगेन गिविंग दैट समथिंग एब्सर्ड रिजल्ट। तो वो सब रहता है, बट ये नॉर्मल कंडीशन की फोरकास्टिंग है। मेनी मेनी टाइम्स वो एक सडन विंड आया, वो बंद हो गया एक आधे घंटे में, नहीं होता जैसे पानी बरसने रहता है तो हवा तेज बहती है, उसके बाद बंद हो जाता है। तो उस टाइम की फोरकास्टिंग है, नॉर्मल विंड स्पेशली इट इज वी आर टॉकिंग वेयर द विंड इज कंटिन्यूअसली फ्लोइंग।
Nice.
Sir, what are the other AI techniques to be implemented for load forecasting or price forecasting? AI techniques like ANN can be used.
या बेसिकली ANN वगैरह यूज करते हैं। उसमें हम और AI टेक्निक्स को मैंने बताया, जो पैरामीटर ट्रेनिंग है उनके वेट्स जो है न्यूरल नेटवर्क के, वो हम PSO, जेनेटिक, अनदर AI टेक्निक से ट्रेन करते हैं। बट हमें चूंकि हमें कोई मॉडल मैथमेटिकल इक्वेशन नहीं है पास्ट डेटा का कि क्या होगा हमारा फ्यूचर, तो हमें ब्लैक बॉक्स है, तो न्यूरल नेटवर्क इज ओनली ऑप्शन टू ट्रेन। तो न्यूरल नेटवर्क ही मिला के आप करेंगे, या तो रिग्रेशन मॉडल ले लीजिए, कोई मैथमेटिकल इक्वेशन बना करके उससे मिनिमाइज कर लीजिए। जो रिग्रेशन मेथड है, तो उसके डेटा को पैरामीटर पकड़ने के लिए अगेन आप AI टेक्निक्स अप्लाई कर सकते हैं। तो वो लेकिन 2000 लीनियर रिग्रेशन मॉडल, और दैट इज नॉट वेरी गुड, क्योंकि वो लीनियर में बहुत सी प्रॉब्लम आती है, वो कन्वर्स नहीं करता है।
जी, ठीक है, ठीक है।
So there is a query from audience side. Satyen Vishkarma is asking, how much forecasting affect the electricity pricing?
You see, what is a load forecasting?
How much forecasting affects the electricity pricing?
It is what happens because right now, suppose I am having a generator. If I am having a generator, and now I should know what will be the load variation of the tomorrow. Based on that, I can bid higher value or lower bid. For example, if you are bidding very high value, which will increase the price. So if you are bidding higher, but there is a possibility, if load is less, you will be not asked to generate. So you will be displaced from the market. So which we are thinking from the profit, you are going in a negative. क्योंकि आपका कैपिटल कास्ट तो उतना हाई है, आपने सब मजदूर सब कुछ आपने लगाया है, और पता लगा आपको मिला ही नहीं जनरेटर जनरेट करने के लिए, so you are losing. So it is a very critical. Already I showed one diagram that it is not that even though my load is more and the price will be more. No, I showed one figure that the peaks also, even though load was same, the one day the price was a different, another price was a different. क्यों? कि मान लीजिए एक जनरेटर आउट है, another generator is not there, so then you can bid higher. So this is the game. This is the game. The pricing and the bidding in the market, it is a business. And business में आपको बहुत सोचना होगा कि कैसे करें। जुआ है बेसिकली। आपने ज्यादा बिड कर दिया, बाहर हो गए, आपने कम बिला, कम पैसा मिल गया, तो क्या हम कितने पे अपने को अपना प्राइस बेचें? सो दैट इज बेसिकली इज अनदर, जस्ट लाइक आपने सपोज करिए आपने टेंडर डाला कोई, मे बी फॉर 1 रुपीज यू आर आउट, आपने 1 रुपया आपका नीचे वो ज्यादा हो गया, दूसरे को 11 को मिल जाएगा। लेकिन वो जनरेटर इसमें डिफरेंट है, क्योंकि आपका इसमें अभी कोई इन्वेस्टमेंट नहीं है, लेकिन जनरेटर में इन्वेस्टमेंट है, उसने सब, उसके पास कोल है, उसके पास मैन पावर रखा हुआ है। ये थोड़ा ना आदमी को भगा देगा कि भाग जाओ भाई, आज कल हमें बिजली नहीं जनरेट करनी है, या इस आवर में नहीं करनी है। सो दैट्स हिज कास्ट इज द फिक्स कास्ट इज सेम, ओनली द कोल नहीं बर्न कर रहा है, और दैट इज ऑल टुगेदर डिफरेंट। सो ही हैज टू मेक, इसीलिए वो अपने पूरे 100 मेगावाट की यूनिट है तो 10-10 मेगावाट के डिफरेंट रेट्स में बेचेगा, कहेगा कम से कम कुछ मिलता रहे। तो ये ब्लॉक्स बिडिंग आर अलाउड, लड़ा हुआ उसमें पॉलिसीज है। तो उसके लिए मार्केट आपको पढ़ना पड़ेगा। तो उसके जनरेटर भी अपने को करता है कि अच्छा ठीक है, हमारा 20 हो जाएगा तो हमारा रिकवरी हो जाएगा, उसके बाद क्लियर करेगा। तो इन दिस मार्केट मेनी जनरेटर्स आर डाइंग, मेनी जनरेटर्स आर बेसिकली गेनिंग मोर प्रॉफिट। और जानते हैं मार्केट में लाइन शेयर वाला बहुत हमेशा बिजी रहता है। आप मार्केट में जाएं तो आलू बेचने वाला एक ट्राली लेकर आया है, वो यदि वो 2 रुपया में बेचने लगेगा तो नीचे जो फुटपाथ पे बैठे रहते हैं 1 किलो वाले, उनका कोई खरीदेगा नहीं, वही सब वही जुड़ने लगता है। तो जिसके पास ज्यादा कैपेसिटी रहती है वो ज्यादा मार्केट को इन्फ्लुएंस करता है। इट्स जस्ट नॉर्मल मार्केट के सिनेरियो से इलेक्ट्रिसिटी मार्केट रहता है, लेकिन ये टोटली डिफरेंट है। इट इज वेरी डिफरेंट बिकॉज स्टोर नहीं कर सकते। आलू आज नहीं बेचेंगे, कल बेचेंगे, भाई ले जाएंगे घर, फिर से लाएंगे कल मार्केट में, लेकिन बिजली तो नहीं पॉकेट में भर के ले जाएंगे। सो लॉट ऑफ थिंग्स आर देयर, इट्स वेरी स्पेशल कमोडिटी। So a lot of things are involved. That is basically should be seen for the price and the load regulation. Hope I tried to explain that.
I hope your doubt is clear, Professor Vishwakarma. There is another question from Dr. S. Manoharan, but I think your question is incomplete. So if you could unmute your mic and directly ask to sir, that would be a much better option.
This is Manoharan, sir.
Yeah.
I have one doubt, sir.
Yeah.
How can hybrid the wavelet with the neural network, sir? How can get the data in wavelet?
No. See, data for the training, you require the past data. Now, in the neural network, whether it's a wavelet, whether it's any other activation function, only at the hidden layer, we introduce the nonlinearity. Your x is coming, then a function fx is there, which is giving us something different. Value is equal to y. So that hidden layer, though we are using wavelan, so it becomes wavelet. If we are using the Gaussian function, then it is become radial basis neural network. If I'm using tan H, it is also a sigmoid function. It is also nonlinearity, then it's a normal feed-forward neural network. So it is only at that point we do, nothing relation. But in the wavelet, this we are having different parameters, A and B's are also there. Means you can change this peak, you can reduce the peak, you can stretch it, you cannot stretch. So all these things, it is a very exactly fit into your peaks calculation, where the like demand peaks or price peaks, spikes are captured by the wavelet neural network. That's why it is now people are trying to use it.
So activation function, we can use the Gaussian function.
Yes, Gaussian, then it is a radial basis neural network will be known. If you are using the DeBois or any wavelets, just wavelets, it is wavelets also known as that. So it is the DeBois Mexican act, various type of the there. You have to see the property of the wavelets that is used, and that basically then it becomes a wavelet neural network. Everything will be same.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
So it is also 4 o'clock.
Yes, sir.
So at the end, I'll say thank you very much for bearing me for this talk. I hope I tried to give some of the insight into that so that you can try to understand. And again, for more reading, you can read a lot of papers, a lot of books, and I'm sure you will be the expert one day in the forecasting.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. NIT Sultanpur family expresses their gratitude for sharing your practical experience and research result with the audience. Few takeaway from the session are water load forecasting, its needs, the parameter it depends on, and its impact on electricity price. Further discussion on various forecasting model and the performance of AWNN was compared to the other models. Also, the future scope of forecasting was discussed by sir. With this, I hope that this session is highly beneficial for the viewers. We are highly obliged to you, sir, for your sharing your valuable time. We hope to see you again for such expert lecture again. Once again, sir, thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank
Have a
you,
nice
sir.
day.
Thank you. प्यासी सर,
Yeah.
आप डिपार्टमेंट में बैठे हैं?
हाँ, yeah.
आते हैं अभी, आते हैं।